Welcome to the first episode of Vermintalk. In this series, we're going to discuss different topics present in the Vermintide community, ranging from game balance to gameplay, to maybe even some theory crafting and lore. Since this is a discussion-based video, I'd love to hear your thoughts and talk with everyone, so make sure to leave your own comments, agreements, and disagreements down in the comments below. I will also state that these videos will be a safe place to share your opinions and have a discussion about the game we love, so I will not tolerate any hostility of any kind directed at anyone. With all that out of the way, enjoy the video. As a horde game, Vermintide's focus is on doing as much damage as you can to keep the horde under control and prevent them from overwhelming you. Although that does not mean there are no utility classes in Vermintide, aiming to assist the team in other ways than dealing massive direct damage. One of these roles is the tank, a utility class present in Vermintide, but one that is ambiguous in nature, having different purposes and roles depending on who you ask, with some even saying tanks are useless. So the question that stands is, what is a tank in Vermintide, and what purpose do they serve? Let's talk about it. To quickly clarify, today we are specifically talking about main tanks in Vermintide, not off tanks. This means that the video will be directly and indirectly mentioning both Ironbreaker and Footnight. Before we can pick apart the tank role in Vermintide, let's first go over what a tank's purpose is in gaming as a whole. In general, the role of a tank is to absorb damage and aggro for their team, allowing other roles to do their job without having to worry about defending themselves. Tanks purposefully put themselves into dangerous and stressful situations as their larger health pool and or damage reduction allow them to make more mistakes than other players or trade their health for potential boons. As a trade-off, tanks usually have a lower damage output than other classes, making them more of a utility class instead of a pure damage or support class. In Vermintide, tanks do remain the same for the most part, but do take on a slightly different role. Tanks do have a higher health pool and damage reduction compared to other classes present in Vermintide, but it is not so much more that taking damage is a negligible thing. Eating an overhead may not outright kill you as a tank, but it will still hurt for a massive amount of damage and put you in a very dangerous place. And because of this, tanks do have a higher damage output available to them, allowing them to still deal a decent amount of damage to aid their team by taking out the general horde, specials, and even elite enemies if needed. However, tank roles have something else in greater quantities that other classes typically do not have: stamina. Tank roles passively gain stamina, making it easier to stay in front and face the horde head-on with any melee weapon you wish to use. This, in turn, allows you to free up necklace slots, allowing you to take other important properties, such as block cost reduction or extra health instead of the extra stamina shield. Now, you could realistically take the stamina shield since extra stamina doesn't hurt, but stamina kind of has a diminishing return effect where once you reach a certain point of it, it becomes less and less useful, and you would be better off taking something like block cost reduction to allow you to tank overhead attacks easier, or extra health to allow you to survive Blightstormers and Warpfire Throwers easier. The two main tanks in Vermintide, Ironbreaker and Footnight, fit into this general role very well with their passive buffs to boost their stamina and survivability. The extra utility they both bring to the team, though, differs in a few ways. Ironbreaker focuses on survival at all costs. With the ability to completely absorb hits and take 30% less damage across the board, Ironbreaker aims to take as much punishment and stress as possible to allow his team breathing room to maneuver, snipe, and fight. His ability to use Drakefire weapons as well as shields allow him to take on hordes head-on with little to no trouble, and with the added benefit of being able to negate a Disabler's grab, he is the #1 guy to take all the aggro. Ironbreaker also allows you to buff your teammates with certain talents, allowing you to give them extra killing power while you hold back the Vermintide. Footnight is more versatile, allowing you to build him either as a pure survival tank or a buff and utility tank. He most shines as a buffing tank, however, excelling when you place him with his team. Unlike Ironbreaker, who can function alone at full power, Footnight excels when he is right next to his team, leading the offensive attack and giving certain buffs to his team that aid in their survival as well. His charge is a highly versatile ultimate and is useful in many different situations, such as clearing a path for his team to get out of a crowded corner, or distracting the Rat Ogre right when he was about to kill a teammate. While Footnight can't take as much damage and punishment as Ironbreaker can, Footnight is a class that can fit almost any role he needs to in the spur of the moment, making him a solid choice to round out your team. A question that many people may ask regarding tanks is, why even have them in the first place? Why take a career that just pushes enemies around and keeps them alive instead of having a career that just kills them? To that, I say this: you do kind of have a point. A group of 4 skilled players will always benefit from having the maximum amount of damage possible, as the best defense is a good offense, and dead enemies have a 100% chance to not stab you in the ass and kill you. However, keep in mind that while you may play with a dedicated group who can all function perfectly fine with no tanks, there are many groups out there who may not be as good and greatly benefit from having a tank in the group to take that aggro off of them. There is nothing wrong with this, of course, and the existence of tanks makes the quality of play sessions better for these players and let them have more fun. Plus, sometimes it's just fun to put on a shield and shove around some rats. And, of course, this is not to mention the fact that tanks are incredibly invaluable during higher difficulties like Twitch mode in Deathwish Onslaught, as there can sometimes be too many enemies present at once to do consistent damage, and having a tank to hold a large group of enemies and bosses allow the rest of the team to begin whittling away at the horde. Now, normally I would recap what I said into a too long didn't read segment, but I think I'll let a friend of mine who does a little pushing himself do it for me.
So the role of a tank in Vermintide is to keep your team as safe as possible from dangerous threats such as elites by staggering their attacks, and also at the same time to enable as much offense as possible to indirectly contribute to DPS, and also contribute as much DPS as yourself. Similar to World of Warcraft, a tank still needs to do damage to clear the waves of things fast enough. You do that by staggering elites so that your allies can attack them and also get bonus damage from stagger, and not get hit, and stay alive doing that damage.
Thanks for watching episode 1 of Vermintalk. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more Vermintide content. If you have any suggestions for Vermintalk topics, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. See y'all next time!